John and Ken, thanks so much for joining me on the channel today. It's really great to have you both here.
It's a pleasure to meet with you.
Pleasure to meet you, Hamali.
Thank you. So before we get into the core and bulk of today's discussion, I was just hoping you guys could each introduce yourselves, just a quick background on who you both are and how you got involved in the company.
Okay, let me start because I'm the older one. My background's in finance. I grew up in the UK with the NatWest Bank, recruited by the Royal Bank, came over here, spent a few years in banking, and then I discovered natural resources. And then in the 80s and through to the 90s, set up a small group of public companies, which is known as a crew group of companies. Quite significant successes, one with a company called Asia Pacific Resources, where we discovered about 1 billion tons of very high-grade potash in Thailand. And that project's now going into production. Another one called Crew Development, where we acquired a controlling interest in a South African company called Metarex. We then acquired the privatization of a Chibaluma copper mine. We merged with a Norwegian company, and eventually we grew to be quite a large organization. I left that company, and Ken and I started to work together on a geothermal project called Western Geopower. So fundamentally, my background is finance. I get involved in the structure and sort of planning with Ken. And we are very complementary in what we do. We work in a good unit together with Catherine and the other directors, of course. So we come at this project on the basis of this is a business, it's not a promotion. And I think that's the most important thing that you can convey to your listeners is when you look at Sonoro Gold, you look at the people, their history, their background, and the fact that this is a business that's being developed, not a promotion.
Awesome.
Hey, so I'll give you a brief summary on my own background. Started my career as a mechanical engineer, moved into the resource sector in 1981, and I've been involved in mining, oil and gas, and geothermal energy in the intervening period. So some of the notable episodes during my career would be developing an offshore or horizontal completion well in the South China Sea with a company that was about to be listed and then became listed on what was then the Vancouver Stock Exchange. Then in the 1990s, was developing a copper cobalt tailings and hard rock project in the Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo. And in fact, we were the first foreign mining company to actually sign a deal with Gécamines, the state mining enterprise. The notable project in the 2000 to 2009 range would be the Western Geopower, a geothermal energy company that was developing a power plant in California. And then in 2009 until 2014, I developed a renewable energy company in the Philippines, which was sold to a subsidiary of one of the Philippine conglomerates. And then I moved on to become president and CEO of Sonoro in 2014. It's been my sole focus ever since. And Sonoro is led by John and me, and of course by Catherine on the corporate side. And in Mexico, we have a very strong team of mining engineer Jorge Diaz and a geologist with 50 years experience in the industry, Mel Herdrick, who's been involved in the, well, I would say 5 million ounces of gold discovery over his career, maybe even greater than that. So we've got a very strong technical team, a strong financial team, and we're now ready to build the mine at Cerro Caliche in Mexico, and that's what we'll be talking about with you today.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And now, John, since this is your first time on our channel and some of our audience might not be familiar with Sonoro Gold, could you give us a brief overview of the company?
Well, we have two projects in Mexico, Cerro Caliche and another one called San Marcial. Cerro Caliche can talk more in terms of the details there, but this is a project that's ready to go to production. We have secured the property, all the property. We have secured the surface rights. So we own everything 100%. We're now moving to, once we get the mining license, to move to go change the surface rights from agriculture to mining. And that will be the last step before we go to production. And from the date we get the mining license or the MIA, we would estimate maximum of 15 months. The other project that we have is San Marcial, which we recently stated in a corporate update. We are planning now to spin off into a wholly owned subsidiary, and with the objective that this will be listed on a company, and we would distribute the shares. We haven't decided on what percentage to all the shareholders of Sonoro based on their ownership of Sonoro. So, in effect, it's like a dividend. It's if you have shares in Sonoro, you will in due course have shares in San Marcial, which we believe potentially has the same value of Cerro Caliche. And the reason we're doing this is because we're now at the stage where we've developed Cerro Caliche to where we are ready to go to production. Only one thing to get, which is a MIR. So it's timely that San Marcial is spun off, and we would hope to get that completed by the end of this year. So we're a small mining company by people's standards, but what's fairly unique with our company is that we have four of the insiders where we're complementary in our skills: financing, marketing, geological, and engineering. Further, those four insiders are totally committed to this one company. There aren't other ventures that's involved. And that interest is reflected by the fact of the ownership that we, the insiders, have 25, 28, maybe 30% of the company. Further, we have a very strong European shareholder base. Maybe 40% of our shares are there. And encouraging is that we're having an increasing number of investors from the US now. So we're almost being discovered, which is a good thing. So a company, that's a business, developing two mining operations, focusing first on Cerro Caliche, and then secondly on San Marcial.
One of the things
Amazing.
I'd like to clarify on John's commentary there, he refers to the MIA. That is the Spanish translation of Environmental Impact Statement, which of course is a precursor to starting construction on building the mine.
Awesome. And now, Ken, I want to talk a little bit about your flagship project, to which you mentioned, Cerro Caliche. So could you give us an overview of the project and maybe highlight any recent milestones or upcoming milestones that you're hoping to hit with that project?
Yes, of course. We acquired the project in 2018 and spent 3, 4 years drilling, a total of 55,000 meters of drilling, which yielded just under 500,000 ounces of gold and gold equivalent inside the open pit shells, as they're known as. That gives us a really good head start to go ahead and make a construction decision at that point. And so we filed a preliminary economic assessment, which showed a very, very strong internal rate of return and a strong net present value based upon $1,800 gold. And in fact, it was something like a 76% internal rate of return based upon $1,800 gold. Well, guess what? Gold is now well over $4,000. And so we've decided now to update the preliminary economic assessment, or the PEA. And so that should be ready for publication in January. I think it could have a significant impact on A, the valuation, and B, the size of the resource, because as the gold price increases, the cutoff grade for the mine will be reduced. So in fact, the original operation called for 0.2 grams of a cutoff. Now that can be substantially lowered, and a lot of the material that would hitherto have gone into the waste dump will now go to the crusher and be processed along with the rest of the ore. So we're looking forward to getting an updated PEA on that basis. So the goal is to have it approved as far as the government of Mexico is concerned. We've been waiting for several years for approval, and we're very, very close. There's a tremendous air of cooperation now between us and the Mexican government to get this approved. And we're hopeful that by the first quarter of 2026, we should have all the hurdles removed and be able to get the MIA approved. The next step after that will be construction, and construction is estimated at no more than 15 months from the date we receive the approval, which is absolutely stellar as far as any kind of mining operation is concerned. And so once we get into operation, the goal is to continue with the drilling program, because we believe that less than 30% of the known mineralized zones in the property have been drilled and assayed to date. So they everywhere we go on the property is mineralized. Just a matter of to what degree. Is it going to be over a gram? Or is it going to be under a gram? But it doesn't matter because it's all mineralized and it's all open pit, heap leachable, and therefore we will be able to generate a good rate of return on pretty well all the mineralization on the property. So we at this point, therefore, we are quite excited about the projected developments in early 2026 because that's going to be a transformation of the company from exploration through development to operations, to mining operations. So 2026, I can assure you that it's going to be a banner year for Sonoro.
Of course, and I look forward to following up on that as well. And I know you touched on it a little bit in your previous answer, but in terms of like exploration strategy, like what does the near-term roadmap look like for you and the rest of the team?
Well, exploration is well defined for us. You know, we have over was it 498 drill holes in place right now. We'll continue to drill once we secure the construction finance. The goal is some of that construction finance will go towards additional drilling as well. And we may even, before even construction starts, we may continue with the drilling program anyhow, because we have identified hundreds of targets on the concession that we believe very strongly will enable us to increase the size of the resource and maybe even increase the grade of the resource as well to make it even more economical. But at $4,000 gold plus, the economics are astonishingly vastly superior to what we had at $1,800 gold. And $1,800 gold was very, very economic 2 years ago. So I think the project is destined for great success now.
Of course, sounds like it. Now, John, Sonora Gold recently announced a $4 million private placement. I believe the news came out a week or two ago. What is the intended use of those funds and proceeds, and how do you plan to unlock additional value for your shareholders?
A very good question. To start with, the financing was announced at $3 million, but due to demand, which exceeded our expectation, we elected to increase it to $4 million. Now, clearly, we have a history of successfully raising funds. They're always non-brokered. We've never not closed it, and invariably it's oversubscribed. This occasion, the funds will be used primarily to A, complete the last property payment. So we own it 100%. No longer are we paying off over time. We've completed that. Secondly, will be the cost associated with transforming the surface rights from agriculture into mining, a permit which we require from the government before we can go to production. The other part will be used for an updated PEA. And we're also going to allocate a small amount to initiate the proposed spin-off of San Marcial. I say small amount because there's going to be necessary to spend maybe $100,000, $200,000 on that project to get an updated 43101, etc. But that will be probably all we will have to invest in it, because once it's listed in its own entity, it will be able to have fundraising itself. So we can develop without having any further dilution to Sonoro Gold. So that's the primary use of the funds.
Awesome. And something that I've really noticed in this space is just how many junior mining companies are actually out there. So to kind of follow up on that, John, what sets Sonora Gold apart in the junior gold mining sector?
I love this question because I use the word unique, and that word is thrown right everywhere. And so I say unique because consider the following. And if you and your followers look at our website and you look at a document called Why Sonoro, we list the 5 essential components that we have, which actually makes us unique. And briefly, as we've said, we have the 4 insiders. Each of us some 30, 40 years experience, separate disciplines, but we united and we come together. Importantly, we're business people, and this is a business. And so we demonstrate our business by our ownership. And so that's the first thing, the people. The second part then will be, of course, the project. We talk in terms of Cerro Caliche. Ken's spoken about that. That's upside there, potentially 2 million ounces or so. We talk in terms of spin-off of San Marcial, which is a dividend to our shareholders, one way or the other. So that's another factor. The third one is then corporate structure. And this is very, very important. The insiders we hold about 28-30% of the issued shares. Our average cost is probably around about 15 cents, etc. And every time we do a financing, we participate in order to maintain our interest. But over and above that, we, the insiders, have loaned the company $3 to $4 million to enable the company to meet its obligations, such as property payments, etc. And we did this unsecured, no conversion rights, for a very specific reason. We did not want to take advantage of our shareholders. We felt to do a financing as it would have been about a year ago, etc., would have been a significant dilution to the shareholders. And we value our shareholders. It's not just lip service. We truly value our shareholders. We say, if you're there at the beginning to support us, we're not going to take any measures that will disadvantage you. So we elected to put up loans. Another point is, well, we've had other people come to us and say, well, you should convert all your loans, give yourself 80% of the company, you're going to be fine. And we said, no, we're content with our position. We're also happy that our shareholders make money. So we're prepared to provide support as and when necessary. So that's a very important factor. And I did mention earlier, we have about 45% of our shareholders from Europe. And that's because they were involved in our prior projects. So when we started on Sonoro Gold, they're automatically following us, following the jockey as opposed to the horse, right? And I should have mentioned I joined the company at the end of 2018. So the other part I think which is important, being the essential components, having dealt with the people, the project, and the structure, is a business plan. We work on a business plan, again, as a result of our attitude. We elected at the very beginning in our business plan, we would only drill sufficient to be able to go to production. We would then, from our revenue stream, expand the rest of the resource. Because at the moment, it's only with 30%, we have the other 70%. But we felt that we would not just drill and have unnecessary dilution, but we go to production. Most junior companies do not have that luxury. That's because they either do not have the necessary experience or skills, or the capital cost may be in the hundreds of millions, whereas ours is a fraction of that, maybe $30 million, etc. So we can take this through to production. That's our business plan. But it was the business plan that dictated we stopped drilling. It was not because that's all we had. Far from it. And the last part, which is important, ability to raise funding. If you look at our histories, Ken and I have raised probably $300 to $400 million for various projects around the world. We're very confident we can raise the funding. So I don't use the word unique lightly, but I've not seen another company where you have the insiders dedicated, their commitment, providing unsecured loans, refusing to convert their loans into shares to take advantage of a low share price, and all the other factors I've spoken about. That's why I think Sonoro is a very attractive company. And I would encourage your readers to go to our website, to sign up to receive news releases. And everything we've stated here can be verified by reference to our website.
Of course, and I'll be sure to link the website and the materials you reference as well, just so that our viewers can learn more. And just to kind of wrap up on the interview, this one's a little bit more of like an open-ended question, so either of you can take it or both of you can jump in as well. But as you guys mentioned earlier, gold prices have been recently breaking records, going above the $4,000 mark. So what are your expectations for the gold market moving forward, and how might these, record prices affect and impact Sonoro Gold?
Go ahead, John.
Okay. Well, we don't really know, but everything would indicate to a continuation of higher gold price. And when gold sort of fell off today at like $100 or $200, panic. We're already over $4,100 an ounce, which was not even imaginable 6 months or 9 months ago. So I would say that my view, and obviously Ken has his own views, and maybe it's the same, we're in a situation where the gold market will be strong. There will be blips, there will be corrections, but there's an upward movement. for several fundamental reasons, not least of which is the international conflicts. We have the Middle East, which is far from being over. We have Ukraine and Russia. There's so many reversing courses by the US administration there that is going to be an issue that will need to be resolved. And it's not going to be resolved amicably. There will have to be some unity, but it's an issue, and that will have pressure on gold prices. There's also China with Taiwan, there's North Korea, etc. So the political sides are pressure. All those factors, a long-winded answer, I know, make me believe that we will see an undulating but progressively increasing gold price. The major banks now, I won't quote them, but the major banks are talking in terms of $5,000 an ounce, $6,000 an ounce. We've no way of evaluating that. But what we can say clearly, as Ken has said before, the higher the price of gold, the more attractive becomes Cerro Caliche and San Marcial because of the very low operating costs that we have there. So under the new PEA, when it comes out and the new mine plan, as Ken has indicated, because the gold price has gone up, material that may not have been commercially viable before will now come into the fold, right? So a strong gold price effect on Sonora Gold will be very significant.
But I think that what you have to keep in mind is that the economics at $1,800 gold are very, very profound. So keep that in mind when you're talking about $4,000 gold, $5,000 gold. Is there a likelihood of seeing $3,000 again greater than the likelihood of seeing $5,000 gold in the future? I believe the latter is more in line with the general consensus right now. $5,000 plus gold is well within the realm of reason in the coming years. So that only, as John mentioned, that only makes our Cerro Caliche project and Sonora Gold in general a much more attractive investment than we've seen in many, many years.
Of course. And I just want to thank you both for taking the time to join us today on our channel. I'm sure that I have learned a lot, as well as Gemini Capital viewers have learned a lot. And I look forward to following up with Sonora Gold in the coming months and years to learn more about what's going on with you guys. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Emily. It's been a real pleasure talking to you.
Yes, thank you very much indeed. Any other questions, please come back to us.
Of course, I will. Thank you.